Welcome to the Unleashing the Champion Within podcast with your host, yours truly, Andrea Mason, your global voice. Stay tuned and get ready to listen to those as they go from victim to victorious. Hear their stories and connect with them.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another segment of Unleashing the Champion Within podcast with your host, your first choice, your global voice, Andrea Mason, alumna of Les Brown and the CEO of Press Play, Plan Life According to You, and recently released author of Victim to Victorious. I want you to sit back and relax and truly enjoy because we got an amazing story from you, from our guest, Taima. She's going to share her Unleashing the Champion moment and much, much more. So let's get started. But before we do, sit back and relax, get that beverage or that snack, and get ready to learn. Welcome, Taima. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. So we would like, before we start off, always to get to know our guests a little bit better. So the floor is yours. The stage is yours to share a little bit about who you are and what you do. Go ahead, my dear.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for having me. So my name is Taima. I am a native New Yorker born and raised in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And today I am an attorney by day and a travel blogger by night. I have a travel blog called Pour in a Private Plane where I write about manifesting travel and how to do more of it and do it well. And it's really started out as something that was my heart project, and it's just become something that, I don't know, it's just grown, and it's pretty awesome just to share those stories and to empower women that look like us to just travel more and see the world and really do the things that they love. So.
Absolutely. Talk about night and day careers. As an attorney, I'm sure it's very stressful, but you're good at your job and determined to correct the wrong. But then you can have a siesta or a fiesta, if you will, around the world by sharing your travel moments with your family as well as solo and just exploring the world. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So let's go into behind the scenes so that people may or may not know. Wow. So you talked about jumping into this about following your heart, which is amazing because that's my signature quote. Follow your heart, not the herd nor the hurt, for success and joyfulness are on the other side. So being an attorney and then, being a traveler and blogger, if you will, let's go back and rewind the clock and share what you're unleashing the champion within moment was. The stage is yours.
Wow. So I think I could remember that moment pretty quickly. And it was the day that I woke up and decided to do things for me and not for some list or, checkbox that I was trying to follow. I graduated from law school in 2005, and I did everything the way I was supposed to do. I went to college, one of the first in my family. I went to law school. I got the job at the big firm. I started my career. I, got all of the promotions, just check, 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 check. I got married. I did all of check boxes, right? That society tells you you're supposed to do. And I wasn't 100% fulfilled. I wasn't doing the things that brought me joy. I realized I was checking boxes that somebody else created, and they weren't the boxes that I created. Yes, there were things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be an attorney. I've been wanting to do it since I was 6 before, I love to talk. So let's start with that. So, some of those boxes belonged to me, but they weren't entirely my story that I wanted to tell. And I decided, listen, I'm going to start doing what I want to do, what Taima wants to do. And what Taima wanted to do was have flexibility. I wanted to travel. I wanted to see things. I wanted to experience things. I spent a lot of hours sitting in an office while my friends were out having these experiences, missing family events, just so many different things. And I just was seeing life just race by. And I was like, I can't, I have to stop. The problem is, though, I love what I do. I love my job. So I wasn't one of those people that was ready to quit my job and just, travel the world full time. The idea sounded amazing and sexy, but it just wasn't me. I get homesick.
Right.
So I decided to just flip the script and kind of focus first on the things that bring me joy and second on everything else.
Mhm.
Right. So whatever time I have left, that's the time, that I could focus on all those other check boxes that, because obviously we have families and we have people that, we answer to in some way, shape, or form. And I don't want to be 1000% selfish, but I gave myself the opportunity to be 100% selfish, if you will. So I started, I switched my job. I was still working as an attorney, but I went a different direction that gave me a little bit more flexibility. I started my blog, and it started out as, this little online journal and Instagram and all this stuff. And I started to build this community of women that felt the same exact way that I did. Professional women that are in the height of their careers, but they just weren't fulfilled, and they were kind of looking for something to fill in that hole, if you will. So that moment was born. I think I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I remember starting the blog, and I remember making all these decisions, and I remember thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm ruining my life. But little did I know it was the first day of the rest of my life, and I have not looked back. I still have an amazing career as an attorney. I have an amazing community of women that I get to inspire and talk to about travel every day. I have these amazing experiences that I talk about with everyone. I did a trip last year with 3 girlfriends for 3 weeks by ourselves. We left the husband's home and we went to Italy. Like, who does that?
Wow. That's
But we
awesome.
just did. It was awesome. We had a blast. But those are the types of things I never would have done 10, 15 years ago because I was too scared. But what about work? But what about this? But time off? But my husband? But how is he going to eat? And
Right, right.
nothing happened
Mhm.
except that we had a blast. And that's what I want to empower other people to do more of.
No, absolutely. Yeah, speaking of travel, your vlog, ladies and gentlemen, again, all my guests' information will be found in the show notes. Is just admirable. It's just seeing the sights through someone else's eyes and just saying, you know what? If she can do it, I can do it. And we at our home, are very selective in choosing the media or articles that we read. We're very selective. We've unplugged literally from TV. So now everything is an investment that we choose to. And we've been watching a lot of vloggers, as well as bloggers as well. And it's just amazing because the media and the travel agencies give you only a certain amount, but you and so many other women have brought the behind the scenes to it, the fun to it, the fear to it, the excitement, all the emotions. And
Yes.
it's really important, as you had mentioned. So, ladies and gentlemen, Taima and myself have were involved last in 2023 at Latino Travel Fest, speaking on on different panels, and it was just amazing because I walked away from that experience not only as a more confident Latina, but also a more empowered woman because the underlying message that I took away from your panel as well as the other speakers was make magical moments and memories and not regrets or what ifs. And that's really what you have embodied. And a lot of the listeners and audience, I'm probably like scratching their heads and kind of tilting their head. An attorney by day and a world traveler, like, how is that even possible? But you have shared that. So share a little bit more on how you were able, as you mentioned earlier in the segment about manifesting, of that balance of doing something so prestigious, so detailed, meticulous, and significant role, and paralleling that to the balance of luxury life and exploring the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we all have the same amount of hours a day and we can only give 100%. Like I joke around about saying like 1000% and 20, whatever, but the reality is we only have 100%, right? We only have a certain amount of time. We only have 100%. And for me, it's a matter of, and the lesson that I try to share with everybody, it's a matter of prioritizing, Um, I like to do, I do this in my business, I do this in my personal life, but I do a time audit. I sit down and I say, okay, this is how much vacation time I have. This is how much time I could be away. This is how much I realistically have to work with. And I work backwards, right? So if I know that I really want to go on this trip, for example, I sit there and I budget my time and I figure it out and I plan it out and I make it my number one priority for that moment. And I say to myself, like, no matter what, I'm going to make this happen. And yes, we do have to be flexible because, you know, in a lot of our careers, we have moments where it's super busy. So maybe you can't take off the whole month of January, right?
Right.
But that's okay. It's just about prioritizing the 1 to 3 things that would absolutely make you smile and give you so much joy and just putting everything in it to come up with a plan to make it happen.
Excellent. I like that.
That's the practical side of it, because we could sit here and manifest all day long and say we deserve, to travel, we deserve luxury travel, all that stuff. But we have to really believe it, because when we really want something, we just push a little bit more, right?
Right.
It's like we're not as afraid to ask for that time off. We're not scared to set up that travel fund. We don't get those emotions because we're hungry for it and we want it. And I think we have to put that same kind of emotion in these things like traveling, or like even if it's going out to brunch with your girlfriends, like it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be as big as a trip. It's
Right.
just putting a priority on it where it's like, I have to have this
Mm-hmm.
and there's no other option, and then just going for it. So that's my
Absolutely.
biggest
Yeah.
thing.
And that's so amazing you did that in before the world changed in 16, 17, 18, 2000. I'm a diehard Disney fan, and I was crunching the numbers and I was just like, okay, I gotta get this to happen. And not only at the time was I working, in my career in another segment before play, but I was listening to Disney music. I was watching vlogs. I was just getting that emotion you speak of that intention and the attention. Remember, as the greats say, energy flows where focus goes. And
Mhm.
that's really what embodied it. And we were just so grateful to go 16, 17, and 18, back to back. And now
Amazing.
you can go to the Maldives same amount to go to Disney these days,
Exactly.
but it's really true. It's about that emotion, how bad do you want it? And and I love what you said a little bit earlier in this segment. So I studied also under the amazing actor Matthew McConaughey, who talks of the art of living, Livin, and he
Yes.
talks about that society has pushed us to, especially our generation, to selfish being a negative word, when really, as you mentioned, let's go 1,000% selfish, 100% selfish, because if you're happy, your energy is emulated and twofold, and that's what you're bringing out. If you're focusing on the negative, the funding, the financial, the time, the stress,
Mhm.
it's gonna minimize it, if not diminish that opportunity, because your focus is elsewhere. So I really love that you said that, being selfish, because when you're selfish, you then get a life or a style of abundance, and then you can pour onto others. So that's, I really like that point
Yeah.
you had
And
mentioned.
it definitely reflects, because, yes, when you tell somebody I'm selfish, it sounds so bad.
Right.
And I've made a lot of selfish decisions in the sense of like choosing to travel over maybe having a moment, or, going to a special event back home or something like that.
Mhm.
However, what that's turned into is, what was that one selfish moment that maybe I decided to go to Italy instead of spending Thanksgiving with my family, has now become, we're all going somewhere together for Thanksgiving,
Awesome.
or we're all going somewhere for somebody's birthday.
Right. Right.
So that one selfish decision, and people seeing how much joy it's bringing us, has kind of rubbed off. So now everybody's being selfish, but we all get to do
Awesome.
it together. So it's
Yeah.
like the one sacrifice I made kind of came full circle. So it's
Excellent.
pretty awesome.
Excellent. What would you say it has been the major adjustment or the areas of improvement that people can take away from this episode, that, being selfish and putting your priorities first, and that there is possibility of manifestation of work-life balance, passion, and so forth, and following your heart. But what would you say to prepare people who are listening and watching the hiccups or the areas of improvement that you may or may not experience, and how did you deal with those? Back to you.
So I've recognized that a lot of the things that we think are going to happen, if we make a decision to prioritize ourselves, are things that we create. So a lot of times we'll say, if I choose to do this, people will be upset with me, or people will be sad, or, people will be disappointed. Coming from a background where a lot of us are first generation, second generation, it seems silly to be spending money on the things that we do, right? According to our parents, we should be investing in different things, not on trips.
Right.
And these are all ideas that we tend to create, and it scares us from making those decisions.
Mhm.
And I'm here to say that it's temporary. And yes, you may get that reaction by some people, but it does not last. And sometimes it doesn't even happen. So we have to be careful with creating scenarios and creating situations that may or may not, that will hold us back, but may or may not happen if we go ahead and move forward with the thing that we're trying to do. And that has been my biggest lesson, is not creating these stories that will never happen, right? Like not creating these scenarios of like, oh my God, well, if I tell my parents I'm not going to be here for Christmas, they're going to never talk to me ever again.
Right.
Things like that. Those are extreme examples. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. What would you give a little example of how you overcame that when that first happened, or when all respect of, limited information, but like how you went through that?
So it was me making the decision and just ripping off the Band-Aid and just doing it. And
Okay.
setting this fear aside, right? So it's like I remember when we first started traveling for our birthdays, for example, they're always around the holidays, which means that we may or may not be back in time. And the first few times that we did it, it was kind of scary because parents are going to be upset. We're missing this, we're missing that. And as I mentioned before, it became one of those traditions now where everybody joins in.
Awesome.
But taking that first step, it literally was like just jumping off the cliff and hoping that the parachute opens.
Right.
And the good news is the parachute opens 99% of the time, so we're okay.
Right. Excellent.
But it really was just doing the thing. It really was just doing the thing and meditating on it and focusing on it and journaling on it and writing about it, because we all deal with our emotions and our thoughts differently. So finding that thing that helps you, whatever it is, meditation, talking to a friend, whatever it is, and then just ripping off the Band-Aid and doing it, and just closing your eyes and jumping.
Yes, no, absolutely. And my mentor coach, Les Brown, always says, someone, when you talked about the fears or the concerns of other people's thoughts, he always says, someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. And
Exactly.
what I've learned over my journey with being a global motivational speaker, an author, and a coach, is that the other person on the other side of the screen always has this high regard of what you believe, and vice versa. And so really everybody's unsure. You just have to trust your gut, trust your intuition, and wish that everything is going to work well for you, and know that it is. And if you have that security of that confidence, abundance, assurance, 9 times out of 10, as you mentioned earlier, it really doesn't happen, because again, it goes back to what's in our mind matters, and the matter in our mind is really what matters most.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
And the key word is knowing and believing it 100%.
Yes.
If you know it, you have to believe it 100%.
Right.
And not that a 0.01% less.
Right. Yeah. No, that's amazing. What would you say up until this point, as you are still traveling and exploring the world, has been your greatest experience thus far?
So one of my so we had a full circle moment last year. So 15 years ago, we went to Egypt for our honeymoon. And we celebrated our 15-week wedding anniversary this past year. And it just so happened that a friend of mine was getting married in Egypt. And she invited us to Egypt for her wedding. And her wedding was the day after our anniversary.
Oh my goodness.
And it was just such a full circle moment because I remember 15 years ago, us little children, if you will, because I felt like a child,
Right.
going to Egypt. It was one of the first trips that we ever took overseas outside of like the Caribbean or, anything in the Americas.
Right.
And we were scared and we had limited funds and we didn't know what we were doing. But all we knew was that we wanted to see the pyramids and we wanted to do this thing. So we did it. We just went out and did it. Not a care in the world. And going back 15 years later, it was just like, it just felt like, when people say like your life flashes before your eyes, but they
Right.
say it kind of in a negative, this was a positive version of it. Like we literally just I remember sitting there having lunch and just thinking like 15 years of travels and we start, and this is like the middle, right? Like
Right.
we're here again and it's like full circle. And this is just the beginning of the second part, right? It's like, so that was, and I got to spend it with amazing people, amazing friends that are now family. So that was the icing on the cake. And people that I met along traveling. Like these are people that I met because of my blog and because of travel. So that really just adds the icing.
And that's what I was going to talk about. As we watch these YouTube vloggers or bloggers and read about the bloggers, they really, it's like an extension of their family everywhere they go. And one of the things that I've learned virtually, and my goal is to travel and meet these people now abroad, having spoken on every continent, is that you really realize that we are more alike than life puts on that huge gap between us. And what I've come to learn is that everyone, we all have a book of life. It's a matter of what page and what stage we're at, and are we ready to take the pen and turn the page. But at the same token, we all want to just the three things of life. We want to be loved, understood, and respected. And you put those core values in the front everywhere you travel, it's just going to open up a world of, unconditional love and amazing experiences. And I see, as you had mentioned, you really adapt to a new family everywhere you go. So that's awesome. That's
It's universal, every language, every culture. That's so true. I tell everybody, some people travel and collect magnets or postcards, and I'm like, I collect friends and family.
Awesome. That's awesome. So we come to the segment where I ask this amazing question, surprise question. So what's next in store for Taima? What's coming up the next couple of quarters of 2024 and 2025? What are you most excited for, or what do you have planned, or if not, what are you thinking about?
So I'm excited because this is going to sound crazy, but I'm excited because I don't have anything planned.
Awesome.
And it feels like a fresh notebook that, when you get a fresh notebook and it's like, ooh.
I have about 20 that are not open because they're so beautiful.
Like it just, they smell good. It's just, I don't know. But anyway, I do have some ideas of things we want to do from the travel side. We do want to go back to Italy and just travel to a few other places in Europe and possibly Africa and Asia. So we're kind of ironing that out. But I think the more important thing for me this year is I've started a few different projects. So I started a Facebook group where I'm hoping to build a community of women like us that want to travel. And my focus is on manifesting travel and working on, any blocks that we might have or might not even know we have, because that was my thing. I didn't know I had blocks, and I did.
Right.
So I'm working on that, and I'm super excited about that. And I'm super excited to share more of the practical side of things and teaching people how to do it. So working on the mindset, but then also working on, how do I save that $1,000? How do I, manage my 2 weeks of vacation? There are like so many things. Like, how do I have that conversation with my husband and tell him like, hey, you're not invited.
Yes.
So
no, I love it. And that brings to one of the posts you recently had, because if you save $28.76 for the next 6 months, I was like, what?
It's
I was just
crazy.
like in a mind because it's so simple. It's so tactile. We'll edit that. But it was just when you put it into that perspective, and that's what you bring light to. So thank you for
Yes.
that simplicity of making the big complex fear factor picture to something as simple as it is.
Yes. I
So
want it to be accessible. I want it to be
yeah.
attainable and accessible. And I want it to be not just I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see these beautiful photos. I
Mhm.
want it to be, I see that beautiful photo and I'm going to create a plan so I could be there too.
Right, exactly.
So that's one of my biggest goals for 2024.
All right, excellent. So as we come to the close, so I welcome your closing thoughts and anything that you want to share with our audience.
So my biggest thought is don't be afraid to be 100% selfish.
Mhm.
And don't be afraid to prioritize the things that truly bring you joy.
Mhm.
Um, because not only will you be better for it, but the people around you will be as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes another segment of Unleashing the Champion Within podcast with your host, Andrea Mason, your first choice, your global voice, and CEO of Press Play, Plan Life According to You, LLC. All of Taima's information will be found in the show notes below. Reach out to her and maybe she'll adopt you and be part of this exploring family, being the face of travel, the face of light, and the face of love. Thank you so much, Taima, for being here. It's an
Thank
honor,
you.
privilege, and pleasure. We wish all the best on your future endeavors, and we'll see you real soon. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for the next episode and continue to choose to press play. Plan life according to you. Have fun, follow your heart, not the hurt nor the herd, and I guarantee success and joyfulness are on the other side. Thank you so much.